Good evening and welcome to our members and our guests. My name is Emma Davidson and I'm the president of the Oxford and Cambridge Society in Malaysia. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're very happy to take a break from politics this evening and we're going to focus on one of Malaysia's national treasures, the Malayan Tiger, in honor of Malaysia Day tomorrow. So we've got two sections to this evening. First of all, we will have three people who will be discussing the Malayan Tiger. And you can post your questions in the chat as well as we go through. Then in the second section, we will be talking about conservation and plantations and their role in Malaysia and in conservation as well. Again, please post your chats. And then for the last segment, we will have all of our guests together to answer your questions and to talk to each other. I'm sure as they go through, they'll have lots of things to discuss. So let me first of all introduce your first moderator. Our host for this evening for the first section is very well known to many of our members. He's a fellow Exco member, Chacko Vadaketh. He's an actor, voiceover artist and host. On the stage, he's acted in many plays, including Shakespeare Goes Bollywood and King Arthur as Camelot. His TV work includes Sabo Singh in the Singaporean sitcom Mr. Kiasu, as well as shows on Cinemax, CBS, and the History Channel. He's hosted many events and award ceremonies across Asia and the USA for esteemed organizations and people such as the Oxford Cambridge Society Malaysia and Prince Charles. Chacko read law and archaeology and anthropology at Pembroke College in Oxford before he was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn. He was a medical legal lawyer at Shern Delamore and chair of the Law and Ethics Committee of the Malaysian AIDS Council before he threw up his wig and his gown for the stage and screen. Our first guest is Lara Ariffin. She produces documentaries directed by Harun Rahman for their company Nuvista Media. She has 20 years experience in making films for broadcasters like National Geographic Channel, History Channel, and Channel News Asia. And we will be premiering one of their new movies this evening for you. Her films have won awards, including at the 2018 New York International Film and TV Awards, the 2013 Donna International Festival of Science and Environmental Films, Spain, and the 2013 Archaeology Channel International Film and Video Festival in the USA, as well as the 2010 Asian Television Awards in Singapore. Her passion is to make documentaries to change the way we treat our planet and its animals. And she's also president of Rimau, an NGO dedicated to saving tigers. Our second guest for the first segment is Horng Liang. He's the executive director of Pertubuhan, Pelindung, Alam Malaysia, which aims to save and protect the Malaysian wildlife and their habitats. He's assisted Perhelitan in conducting the recent first national tiger survey, covering 16,000 square kilometers of forests. He's got involved in tiger work as a field assistant and has completed his degree at the University of Victoria, Canada, and he's joined the Coastal Wolf Project, and then Traffic Southeast Asia, investigating tiger and tiger prey trade, and later the Wildlife Conservation Society in Endau, Rompin. He's obtained his master's degree from the University of Singapore in 2016. So I'd like to welcome everybody for our first section. Where's Horng? Horng seems to have disappeared. Have we lost Horng somewhere?
Thank you, Emma.
Okay.
And hello, Lara. And I think Horng is coming
Chacko.
on.
Hi, Emma.
It's fantastic that the Oxford and Cambridge Society is doing this on the eve of Malaysia Day. I hope you like my Kelantan batik shirt in the colors of the Jalur Gemilang. Jumping straight in. And thank you to everyone in cyberspace joining us tonight to look at this important issue. On the eve of Malaysia Day, let's look at the plight of our national animal, the Malayan tiger. It's called that because, well, it's been in existence long before Malaysia came into being. It's also only found in the Malay Peninsula, which stretches from the tip of Johor and goes into southern Thailand. It is a unique subspecies of tiger, but it is severely threatened. It is on the brink of extinction. At the time of Merdeka, there were 3,000 tigers in our jungles. Today, it is believed there are less than 150. And we've had the Caspian tiger, the Javan tiger, the Balinese tiger, all going extinct. The South China tiger is no longer found in jungles. It may still be seen in zoos. Is that going to be the plight of our beloved Harimau Malaya? What can be done to save it? Now, we're going to also look at one of the great success stories of Malaysia, our top cash crop. I'm talking about palm oil. It's garnered 38.24 billion GDP in 2019, but it has also adversely impacted the tiger through loss of habitat. And we hope in this discussion to see how palm oil and tiger conservation can work together hand in hand. As Emma explained, for the first half of this program, I'll be talking to two people who are passionate about tigers. We have Lara, who's a filmmaker and who's and we have Horng. Is Horng coming in?
Yeah.
And Horng is a conservation scientist who's just about coming in. There you are, Horng. Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for taking time this evening to talk to the Oxford and Cambridge Society of Malaysia. Jumping straight in, Horng has, of course, been working with Pelindung to help the National Tiger Survey, and we'll learn more about this program. Am I losing people?
Yeah, I think that's Lara. Is that Chacko's Wi-Fi or mine?
Gosh.
Is that
Chacko?
All right. We seem to be having slight technical glitches. Lara, can you hear me? You can unmute and say hi.
Yep.
Let's
Hello,
jump straight
everyone.
into the
Thank you
film,
for having
since
us.
we've only got about 25.
Okay, I'll click yes with the film. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
The Malaysian Rainforest. A realm of immense diversity. A living miracle of complexity. Within lives an animal so rare, it is like a phantom. The Malayan Tiger. Once the tiger was the striped monarch of this ancient domain. Now, the striped hunter has become the hunted. Poachers trespass into the land of the tiger to trap, kill, and sell their prey. But now, the fight is on to save this remarkable creature. Field biologists are carrying out a definitive new nationwide survey of tiger numbers in the most challenging conditions to determine how many still remain and where. Researchers who are dissecting the secrets of this extraordinary animal and using innovative techniques in the laboratory. Conservationists hoping to wake up the world to the plight of its tigers. Rangers that are patrolling the jungle to protect the tiger from poachers. It is a race against time for the last tigers of Malaysia.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's a sneak preview. I think you're the first people to get this preview. So you saw this trailer of Malaysia's Last Tigers, first here with the Oxford and Cambridge Society. Lara, congratulations on the film. It's going to premiere next week. It's been a labor of love. It's been a difficult project, labor of love for you and your husband, director Harun Rahman. Why did you feel compelled to make it?
You know, we actually wrote our first proposal. No, I'm not. Hello, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Testing, can you
Are
hear
you
me?
unmuted?
Unmuted. Yeah, you can hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right.
So, really, we wrote our first proposal for a documentary on tigers in 2005. It was called Ghost in the Garden of Eden. And, you know, even then in 2005, the alarm bells were already ringing for us in terms of, you know, the tiger numbers were already, you know, below 500 or around 500 at that point in time. So we really wanted to make this film, but never managed to get the funding for it. But what we did was we continued filming and meeting people, talking to people. And so this love affair with tigers began, you know, since all that time ago. And yeah, I mean, they are a charismatic species, tigers. And, you know, people always ask why do you want to save them? You know, they're more than just an icon, tigers. So I think at the end of the day, they play a very important role in our rainforest by maintaining the balance. And they are the umbrella species, as they are the apex predators. As if you look after tigers, everything below it gets protected. So our love affair really started a long time ago. Chacko.
Thank you, Lara. And it's going to be shown on National Geographic from next week, Wednesday. And how long will its run be there?
It will be on for a while. I mean, we've had our shows on National Geographic before, and normally they will run the shows quite often. Harun and I will probably have some sort of public screenings as well, probably, you know, sort of smaller screenings. I mean, the COVID situation has made it difficult, but we will also have some other screenings as well.
Okay. And if I don't have Astro, how can I watch it?
Sorry? Yeah, come to our screening, Chackos. You know, I think at the end of the day, we will have these intimate screenings where we will be able to talk about the process of making the film and, you know, the challenges tigers face. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we're all so excited, looking forward to seeing it. Your trailer focuses on poachers. Why?
Yeah, I mean, am I sharing the screen? If someone is allowing me to share screen, can you actually see my poster on the left-hand side already?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
now we.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to so sort of get us going.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, you know, sort of yeah, just to check full screen. I'm just going down. Okay, so sorry, your question was why does it focus on poachers?
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of the trailers about poachers, right, and snares and so on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's poaching is the biggest threat to tigers today. You know, so I mean, if you look at the sort of the figures here, 1950s, you know, we had 3,000 tigers, and in the year 2000, it was down to 500 tigers. And I think it really relates back to this sort of map that we wanted to do. So I mean, we lost a lot of tigers, especially from the 1950s up to 2000. But come 2000, the threat changed. The biggest threat was really poaching. And even today, you know, poaching is a huge problem, not only for our tigers, but tigers in Sumatra, in India. And the demand for tigers is so great. Every part of the tiger is in demand, from its skin, bones, its whiskers are now used for acupuncture needles in China. So the demand is so great. So poaching is now the biggest problem in Malaysia. And we are losing all our tigers to poachers, locally and international poachers. So yeah, so I mean, poaching is a big deal. I think I think we can go back again to the slides and just to show you, this is a snare, and this is what poachers use to catch tigers. They will put rows and rows and rows of these snares in the jungle, and hope to get a tiger. And as I said, the reality is every element of the tiger is in demand. So yes, so that is really the problem that we have. But in the film, of course, it's not just about poaching. I think one of the biggest elements that we wanted to show was the National Tiger Survey. And I think, people forget there are heroes that do the work of conservation. And I think we really wanted to highlight the work done by Perhilitan and Pelindung, especially in actually doing the National Tiger Survey. So I think in the film, we highlight Perhilitan's efforts in looking at tigers in pristine areas, and Pelindung looking at tigers in unprotected areas and not pristine areas, so in logged forest. So, that was the whole idea of the film.
Okay. And Perhilitan is our Department of Wildlife, and Pelindung is an NGO which has been set up by Horng. And of course, the stars of your film are the tigers, but one of the co-stars is Horng himself. So we're very lucky to have him here. Horng, can you tell us a little bit about the National Tiger Survey? Why was it carried out? How was it done? How long did it take you?
Hi. So actually, the other star is actually our organization, Pelindung, because it's not just me doing the work. So one of the main things that we want to carry out the National Tiger Survey, the government actually want to carry out, because it's completely funded by the federal government for the 5 years time. And Perhilitan is the leading agency and also carry out almost 1/3 or almost 40% of the work on the ground. So the other NGOs such as Pelindung and also WWF, WCS, also Rimau actually assist in the survey itself. I mean, it is important that we have the National Tiger Survey so we actually can know where our tigers now. I mean, for the last 5 years, since the independence, we haven't had the national-wide survey on tigers or any other animals. So this is a historical survey for the country as well, so that we can actually know at the moment for last 5 years where we have to focus. I mean, after the National Tiger Survey, the important things that we learn is that where are the tigers now and how many of them are left in our forests. So maybe we can go to the slides, Lara. Yeah, so some of the important things that we found out is a lot of the area that we previously are not focusing at and still have tigers. And some of the critical elements of having these important tiger population are because of the orang asli, the indigenous people in the area, that they have been the ones actually protecting the tigers in their area. And these are the populations that have not been known previously under the National Tiger Conservation Action Plan. So it's important that we have this so that we know where we can focus. At the same time, not only tigers, we also also survey other animals, like the sladang, the largest wild cattle in the world. Also the other smaller species, the serrals, the tapirs, sambadia. So all these species actually, we call it a National Tiger Survey. It's actually, in fact, it is a National Wildlife Survey for especially the terrestrial mammals.
Yes, because one of the questions that Patrick Helson, who's on the Exco, had asked me this morning was, what about other animals? What about other flora? Aren't they important? Shouldn't they be saved? And I think Lara alluded to that, the tiger being the apex predator, but perhaps you can elaborate on.
Yeah. So during the survey, we also record other animals. I mean, like the one shown on the slide here. But at the same time, we also record such as gibbons, hornbills, so all those other species that's in our forest. During the National Tiger Survey, you actually have record. So now, after the National Tiger Survey, we actually have a nationwide distribution of all these species that we previously have not had before. And it is important because after this, already Berhad has started the enforcement to strengthen the protection on the ground. And so now we can actually focus on tiger habitat, because tiger habitat Horng range is so large that we can cover all the other species within its habitat. So a male tiger Horng range is about 300 square kilometers. Within it, can have 3 to 4 females. But at the same time, you also have all the other animals actually living in the same habitat. So when doing the enforcement, we're focusing on the tiger habitat. At the same time, you're actually protecting everything else, or even your bad species. Yeah.
Everything, because you protect the habitat, then you protect everything in there, and the habitat is the trees and the plants and the flowers, etc. Let's jump. Today we're focusing on loss of habitat and the palm oil industry. How much jungle is there left in the peninsula? Lara, could you tell us? And you had some amazing slides showing how much
How do I go earlier?
has been lost.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're down to about 43.6% of forests left in Peninsular Malaysia, but I think the biggest problem to that as well is the fragmentation of the forest. So I think that is something that we need to address very seriously. I think, Chacko, if you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly just go and finish just to show you one very important slide for me. I think the reality is the snares in the jungle are affecting a lot of other animals. And what I think the National Tiger Survey showed was that we have a host of three-legged animals in the forest because of snares. Yeah, so these are horrific slides, horrific pictures that show the effects of poaching in our jungles. So in terms of, I'm going to sort of jump slides a bit. When we talk about habitat protection, the reality is, there's only 43% of forests in Peninsular Malaysia that's left. And all out of that's left is extremely fragmented. So we have islands of forests where tigers are living, and their future is very, very dim. So,
and Monk says only about 11% of that is actually pristine jungle, right?
Yeah, might be even less. So I mean, maybe Horng can share a little bit about protected areas. Totally protected areas is totally non-logged areas is really not that much.
Okay, and if we move into palm oil, they cover 13% of our land, and that was 13% that was jungle. Of course, we need palm oil. It's one of our top exports and top money makers. But how much has palm oil impacted on our tigers? Can either of you clarify that?
At the end of the day, any land clearance for whether it's for palm oil or for rubber or for mining or has impacted the home of the tiger. So I mean, it's a clear correlation. In 1950, we had so much more land, and now we have only 43% left. So of course, that's going to impact the home of the tiger. So, but at this point in time, I think we are interested really in terms of moving forward, and the reality is, how do we move forward? I think, Chacko, that's what I'm interested in. We can say that we've lost tigers, and we've lost so many tigers, but it's no point crying over spilt milk. Let's just move forward and get tigers back into a decent number. Can't hear you, Chacko. You're muted.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Horng, I think we're all concerned about losing more forest, losing more jungle, losing more habitat. There's little left. What is the biggest threat to our habitats today? You have
I think one of the issues that, we say that the land is state matter, but we have to also keep in mind that the state actually need income to actually sustain the operations. So So when a lot of the people saying that the state should just stop logging or should just stop converting the forest, it's possible because the income, the revenue they generate from the state is actually, you can, Lara, this slide, you can look at it. It's actually some of the big company in Malaysia, or we take out the bank because they are the ones handling the money. I mean, some of the oil palm plantation or a company, and also, I mean, the glove company as well, and have a lot more than the state revenue. So
yes.
when we talk about asking the state to do more, but they don't have the money, so the income has to come somewhere. Unless the income comes from somewhere else, that it's impossible for them to not have this extraction from the natural resources.
So, Horng, you were telling me that the states have very little sources of revenue. I was shocked to learn that most of the taxes earned in the state goes to federal. So the states, one of the only things they can do is log. Is that right? To earn money.
Log and also conversion, so they can earn the tax from the land. You know, one of the things that because tigers at the moment, at an unprecedented situation, that we might lose tiger forever as our national icon or national symbol in the next maybe 2 to 5 years, if nothing has been done. But at the same time, that when we talk about anti-poaching, maybe Lara, you can go back to the petrollers slide.
Sorry, coming?
Okay. Yeah. So after the National Tiger Survey, a lot has been done on the anti-poaching. The police have come forward, joining the Berhad also in as early as 2019, when the portion of the National Tiger Survey have revealed that we actually have less area that have tigers. Every day they have stepped up the ball game, and also the federal government also put in money into hiring the RRC and also the ex-army to actually come on board to actually doing the patrolling. We still need more, but at least that the poaching issue at the moment has been tackled by the federal government and by all the agencies that's been involved with the OBK, the Operasi Bersepatu Dana. However, the long-term issues here is the habitat loss that we need to tackle now. And one of the things that we could suggest, I mean, to the private sector, yes. I mean, the RRC have come on board. The NGO definitely, at the early stage of NTS, the NGO has come on board already. And our RRC community also has come on board. The police have come on board. And even the most recent one last year, Custom has come on board for the OBK operations. Yeah. So the industry right now.
How do you see the palm oil industry helping save habitat loss?
A lot of the oil palm companies like Yayasan Saidabi have really given a lot of the funding to the NGO, but that's not enough. I mean, we are not tackling the ultimate issues here, which is the habitat loss. No matter how many tiger we can save from poaching, if at the end they lost all the habitat, we are still going to lose the tigers. So one of the things that we could actually propose is that the oil palm company, because to be honest, among the agriculture sectors, oil palm company are the one who are making the most. I mean, we can say that great, they contribute to the national income as well. I mean, it's not a clear black and white things.
Yes.
We need the oil palm company. By the same time, they can come forward to actually contribute to incentive to the state, so that the state do not need to log more forest, because the only reason the state need to log the forest or doing the conversions is because they need the income. Logging in the way, if it is done properly and selective logging, is actually not as destructive as clear cutting or conversion of the forest. So we need to deal with that issues, that the income for the state need to be prioritized for them. Yeah. So oil palm company or industrial can actually come forward to actually, maybe even about like every hectares of forest, or every hectares of plantation they have, maybe they can contribute a yearly of 100 ringgit because we have about 5.8 million hectares of oil palm plantation now in Malaysia. Each year per hectare they contribute 100 ringgit. That is about 600 or 580 million. So this money can actually be incentive to the state to actually not to log any more of the forest because the income has been covered. And also, of course, the federal has to come in whether this is going to be a tax exemption things. I mean, this is beyond our talk today. But what we can suggest to the oil palm industry that
Yes.
to come from on board on this.
That's a fantastic idea, and I think we're not picking on just the oil palm industry, but they have caused habitat loss before. They're making lots of profits. Let's give back something to save what's remaining of a habitat, and and it's a multi-pronged approach, as you say. If tax exemptions can be made, that could be an added benefit to the palm oil industry to contribute to saving our forests, to giving the states money so that they don't have to log the forest to make that money. We're running out of time for our segment. There was a comment by Ida. It's not about the crops, but the practice of the land use after it has been changed. Would that be relevant to saving habitat?
I think at the end of the day, it's the initial step of conversion. So again, where that choice of conversion is, and I think that becomes the problem that's not looked at carefully in terms of, when you open up one bit of forest here and then suddenly you've disconnected a whole amount of forest. Let's take Ariffin, for example. There's a lot of plantations, whether it's rubber and palm oil, but Ariffin now is a disconnected forest from Taman Negara, Greater Taman Negara, and Banjaran Kutiwangsa. So when that happens, that little bit of forest is now, you've got tigers there, but there's going to be problems with genetic diversity because it's no longer connected to a bigger area of forest.
And that might be something that the palm oil industry can assist if there are plantations that are going in between forested areas. They could donate some of that land to create these corridors. That would be of benefit to our wildlife. Yes. Yeah. Well, I think we're coming to the end of our session. So we're going to hand over to the palm oil people, Dato Bek-Nielsen and Natasha Kamaluddin. And we'll all meet up again once they're done. Hopefully it's not a fight to the death, but a way of working out how conservationists and the palm oil industry can work together to save the Malayan tiger. Over to you, Emma.
Okay. Thank you for that discussion. So I just want to introduce your next guest and next moderator. First of all, the moderator is Natasha Kamaluddin. She graduated in economics from Cambridge in 1995 and since then has worked as a management consultant in several international local consulting firms. She was formerly managing partner Ethos Consulting and was a senior partner Ernst & Young. And since 2017, she's been a senior advisor with McKinsey & Co. As a senior management consultant, she has served on many of the largest plantation companies on a broad range of issues, and she serves on the board of Felda, the largest plantation landowner in Malaysia. Besides being a consultant, Natasha is also a published author on books relating to Islamic women's empowerment. And her guest is Dato Bek-Nielsen, who was born in in Petaling Jaya. He graduated from the Royal Danish Agricultural and Veterinary University in Copenhagen in 1997. He's been employed with United Plantations Berhad for 24 years and was appointed as its Chief Executive Director on the 1st of January 2013. He served on numerous industry boards, such as the Malaysian Palm Oil Council for 17 years, the Malaysian Palm Oil Association for 18 years, and was appointed as the co-chair of the Rspo, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, in 2014, and he's still the co-chair. He's been a strong advocate in promoting the cause of sustainability in the palm oil sector and has delivered many speeches and presentations on this topic internationally and regionally over the last 20 years. So we're delighted to have two people so knowledgeable about the palm oil industry. So Natasha, over to you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I hope you're enjoying this session and as motivated as I am and inspired as I am to protect this Malaysian icon. Thank you, Dato Kar, for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
I think one thing we've heard repeatedly tonight is that, you know, as the economy develops, right, how do we make sure that the industries that are so important to the economy can exist in harmony with the protection of our environmental heritage? And it can't be denied that a concerning cause of diminishing wildlife is in fact destruction of national habitat. Now, I know that there have been commitments made at the national level as well as individual companies in terms of no further deforestation. Can you please elaborate on that and how has this actually played out in practice?
Yes, I shall be happy to do that. And firstly, good evening to everyone. And thank you very much for the introduction. I thought maybe I would start off with a few slides just to put things in perspective. And thereafter, take all the questions which you want to direct, and I'll be happy to do so. But okay, I thought just to put things in perspective, early on in the earlier segment, there was talk about land use change, because I think that in the essence is probably the key problem. So on the slide in front of you, if you look at the pie chart on the left, it basically gives an indication of how much land do we actually have in the world. And globally, there's 13.4 billion hectares. Just to put things in perspective, Malaysia is 33 million hectares. You will then see in the light green segment of the pie chart, the total area which today is occupied by agriculture, namely 5 billion hectares. That's 37% of the total land bank. Of that, we will see that 70% or just 69% is for rearing livestock, and about 31% is for arable crops, corn, soy, wheat, rice, etc., and also the oil palm. And it's just to put things in perspective to show you the total segmentation or share of the oil palm globally in terms of world agriculture. And can we have the next 2 clicks, please, so we can go forward? You will see the total area globally under oil palm today is about 24 million hectares. That's 0.5% of world agricultural land. Yet the oil palm, and we will get to that, because I'm not here just to paint a rosy picture, but to tell the facts as they are. The oil palm globally today accounts for 37% of all the oils and fats produced. And that's on less than 0.5% of the total area occupied by agricultural land today. Can we have the next slide, please? Then we'll go on to some of the main challenges. And please click 4 times, and then you will see down here, what does this indicate? This, ladies and gentlemen, really indicates the enormous challenges which we all face, which are shared challenges. From now and right up to 2050, there's going to be 2.2 billion more people on this planet. The middle class is going to grow by around 3 billion people. And according to the Food and Agricultural Organization, as well as Oil World in Hamburg, we will have to produce 65% more edible oils by 2050. This is an enormous challenge, enormous. Totally 70% more food. And you can see how the charts have gone up. Maybe we can just have the next click so you can see world population. If we can just click on the next one. Whoop. Oh, okay. Well, we'll skip that. We'll then go on to the next slide. That's fine. We'll just hold there for a little while. Oh, can we just go back, please? Yeah. Now, what I would like to show here on the slide on the left-hand corner is basically what you will indicate, or what you will see here is the total amount of vegetable oil produced per hectare. And on the far left, you will see if you plant soybeans, you will produce about 400 kilos or 0.4 tons of oil per hectare. World palm oil average, you produce about 10 times more oil per area unit. But then on the far hand side, on the far right, you will see what I have termed as RSPO leaders. And we will get to what this stands for in a little while. But that is basically the round table for sustainable palm oil and what they are able to do, where you will actually be able to get up to 15 times more vegetable oil production on the same area unit compared to, for example, soybean oil. Can we have the next click, please? And this is very interesting because that little illustration here, it's actually from the IUCN. The IUCN is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, an NGO which is a very credible NGO. And they recently came out and said, look, palm oil is there. It's not going to disappear. The key thing is, how do we support sustainable production of palm oil? And how can we ensure that more and more people embrace a more sustainable way of producing palm oil? Because if you do that, you will need much less land. In fact, they came out and said that the consequences of boycotting palm will ultimately result in farmers clearing 7 to 10 times more land area, thereby leading to more environmental and biodiversity losses. Can we have the next slide, please? And this goes back to some of the same challenges which the earlier speakers were addressing, namely biodiversity. Now, in the tropics, we know we have these wonderful animals like the orangutan, tigers, chimpanzees, elephants, etc. And this is the problem, because all crops, all arable crops have one thing in common. They require land. And when you displace jungles, forests, savannas, and you transform that into arable crops such as rice, wheat, soy, oil palm, you are moving into habitats where you have a very high level of biodiversity. So the question is, can we strike a balance between economy and ecology? And is sustainable palm oil an illusion or something which we can work towards? And now we'll go to the last slide. If you just click another one, please. What I've tried to illustrate here is that sustainability really has got to do with 3 fundamental pillars: economic viability, it's got to do with social responsibility, and environmental responsibility. So can we just click 4 or 5 times, and then you will see some of the things appear. In order for you to reach sustainable palm oil, which I have termed as RSPO, people may think, what is the RSPO? And this is hopefully something which you will all remember. At least if there's one thing you can maybe take home from this little talk here, then it is, what is the RSPO? The RSPO stands for the Round Table on Sustainable Palm Oil. Can we have the next click, please? It was formed in 2004. Today, it has grown to over 5,000 members internationally. It has put together criteria and principles for what is deemed as sustainable certified palm oil, which is endorsed by more than 40 NGOs. You have social NGOs like Oxfam International, you've got WWF, you've got Conservation International, Borneo Orangutan Salvation. Most of the key NGOs are actually members of the RSPO. And the important thing to understand here is that this is not just a monologue. The RSPO is a multi-stakeholder process where various interested parties, bankers, it could be HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, NGOs, WWF, Oxfam. It could be retailers such as Marks and Spencer's or Sainsbury's. It could be consumer good manufacturers like Unilever, Nestle, Ferrero, and also oil palm growers, which make up less than 12% of the member base. They sit together and they have to agree on a way to move forward. And I very much like what was said by one of the earlier speakers, that the key thing is, how do we move forward? And I think that is what the RSPO is all about. Can we just click 2 times more, please? So what is the RSPO? If you sign up to the RSPO as a plantation grower, you are automatically signing up to no deforestation, no peat clearance, no use of fire, and no exploitation. That is the key, and we call that NDPE. And if any palm oil company, which is a member of the RSPO, moves in and clears jungle, they will be kicked out. They will be suspended with the RSPO, and they will immediately lose the ability to sell to the big multinational brands. So the very last thing I would like to say before, any questions or dialogue is today, 18% of world palm oil production is RSPO certified. But the important thing, ladies and gentlemen, the important thing to take note of here is that yet there's only a demand for 50% of what is produced. And that is the dilemma. Because how do we attract more growers to join a movement like the RSPO, or, for example, MSPO or ISPO, which is the Indonesian or Malaysian equivalent, thereby embracing sustainable production, yet we have consumers, we have big buyers around the world who don't want to pay a little bit more for the efforts undertaken. And with that, I will now be ready to take the first questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dato. This was super helpful, I think, in terms of framing the perspective. I want to pick up on this point around consumer demand. But before that, maybe for the benefit of the audience, can you explain what are some of the differences in RSPO in as far as conservation of wildlife is concerned? Because I understand the point about no deforestation, no planting on peatland and so on. But what about wildlife?
There's a no-kill policy. I mean, early on we heard about how tigers were being poached and, things like that. I mean, if you are ever involved in any atrocities involving the destruction of any animals on the IUCN list, you are immediately suspended and thrown out of the RSPO. So you can't.
So how do they, because in the past we know that if you had an elephant, for example, that sort of went into your plantation and started trampling on the plants, people would shoot them. So now what do they do?
Well, you have to take ownership. As an RSPO member, you have to take ownership. And should there be any, high relevance wildlife coming into your estate, then it's your obligation to ensure that you protect that wildlife and that you connect with the relevant authorities who can assist you in ensuring that no harm is undertaken to that wildlife. You have to take ownership, and it has to be your cost.
And is this what is happening on the ground, Dato?
I would say in most instances, yes. I can't sort of speak for things which go on which I'm not aware of, but occasionally you read in the papers that there are certain agricultural operations which actually poison wildlife. There's been some issues in Sabah with elephants, pygmy elephants. I'm not aware whether they are RSPO members, but I can tell you if they are RSPO members and a complaint is lodged, they would be in for serious trouble.
Okay, so now so we have members who are as part of our RSPO and producing the certified sustainable palm oil, and the issue is that demand is lagging behind supply. Now, in your view, I mean, is it some sort of, I don't want to use the word, but is it some sort of consumer awareness problem or hypocrisy problem? We expect sustainability, but then we don't want it to cost more, or we don't want to make the right choices.
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, how would you know an acronym like the RSPO? I mean, there needs to be much greater attempt to push that. But having said that, all major players and medium-sized players and even small players in the industry and the vegetable oil industry, and I'm not talking just here, I'm talking globally, all big multinational companies or consumer good manufacturers, retailers for that matter, they would know about the RSPO. So they can't just go to the kitchen sink and wash their hands and say, look, I don't know anything about it. They are absolutely aware of this. And today, I want to re-emphasize the point that of the total amount of RSPO certified palm oil which is produced, only 50% has a market. The rest is not sold as certified RSPO palm. So there is a great level of hypocrisy. For example, of all the imports of palm oil into Europe, there's about 8 million tons, only about 54% of that is RSPO certified. And that's in a market where people are highly critical. So, I mean, that is first-class hypocrisy.
So there's a question in the chat I'm going to read out. How many Malaysian palm oil companies are RSPO certified?
I can't remember right now, but there are a good number which are RSPO certified, and you would have companies
the
like
big ones are, right? All the big ones.
IOI, KLK, United Plantations, Genting. You'd have all the big companies, definitely. But go into the website www.rspo.org and you'll be able to see the true statistics.
Yeah, there's another question here. Some skeptics have branded it as just hype, and how credible is it as a standard?
I would that's fine. No problem. It's a good question, because there have been allegations of, this is greenwashing, etc. But I would welcome anyone to come on board the RSPO, become a member, and then judge for yourself, because there is an enormous amount of work by an extraordinary amount of people globally who believe passionately in this movement called sustainable palm oil. And the RSPO is the gold standard within that movement.
Yeah.
So I also want to say, look, it's not born perfect. It's still evolving. There are many things which need to be tweaked and improved upon. It's not born perfect, but it is moving in the right direction. Absolutely, we're beyond doubt.
I think I want to talk about the role of consumers, because at the end of the day, it's our purchasing decisions that's going to make the difference. So if nobody buys tiger's whiskers, there wouldn't be a need to kill tigers and buy the tiger's whiskers, right? So going back to RSPO, if I'm an ordinary, Jane Doe shopper doing my shopping, and I'm contemplating between this Mars bar and this Kit Kat, how do I know, whether they're made from RSPO certified palm oil or any product?
The RSPO has a logo, and you will see it, in the top left corner of the slide there. That palm leaf, and then you have the RSPO logo up there. That is basically the RSPO logo, and companies who sign up to it and who are members and who trade certified sustainable palm oil can use that logo. I have encountered so many interesting people over the last 20 years where we've been involved in this sustainability movement. And I think it's very important for people to distinguish between what is the oil palm. Many people look at the oil palm as something evil, something nasty. And I think it's very important to understand there's nothing bad or evil with the oil palm tree. There's no such thing as a good oil or a bad oil, and here to downgrade soybean or rape or sunflower oil. However, I want to point out one thing. There are a range of good and bad practices, and that is the key essence here. We should look at good and bad practices. So within palm, there are now almost 20% of the world who are moving in that direction and trying their level best to jump through that ring of fire and take that not just great step at it, but a leap forward to uphold many of these sustainability criteria.
Yeah.
But sustainability, and this is also very important. To me, it's a shared problem, and it requires individual changes. We can't just stand and point fingers and say, what about this? We ourselves have got to ask, what can I do as an individual to help promote that? Am I willing to make changes to my lifestyle which can reflect a more sustainable way of doing things? And unless we truly want to do that and move in that direction, sustainability is going to fall flat on the ground.
Yeah, I completely support that. In fact, I just share with you a few months ago, my whole family, actually triggered by my kids, right, who care about these issues, have decided to go vegan because there's no way we can support animal farming. We just said no dairy, no animal farming. We're going to go all plant-based there because of what you shared in the beginning. It's so obvious who's causing the, what industry is actually driving the land use changes. So I think that as consumers, if we care about this issue, then we have to basically put our money where our mouth is. Now, one question, Dato, I think you've spoken about the commitments of those who sign up to RSPO, but what about smallholders? Because in Malaysia, there's still almost about half, right, of the oil palm land.
About 40% of Malaysian producers are smallholders. And, there's an obligation to see what can be done to assist the smallholder membership and the smallholder producing units. How can we help them improve on their, for example, husbandry practices, their agricultural practices, thereby producing more with less. And I think much more focus and zeal has to be put into that avenue in terms of seeing how can we produce more with less, thereby taking the foot off the accelerator of land use change. This is important. So the smallholder memberships or the smallholder class, they require assistance and help, and it's the obligation to provide them with this assistance and help so they can improve on their husbandry practices, their good agricultural practices, which will take them a long way. But, you know, getting back to the earlier discussion, and I'm sorry just to interject here, I didn't see any question on this coming up, but, you know, we talked about conservation of the Malayan tiger and what can be done there. It's about trying to have a more holistic land use change strategy, so we don't end up with fragmented forests or tiny forests. And if we have small pockets of forests, what can one do to create corridors between these forests? So there's the connectivity, and there are a number of plantation companies who are now seeing the light and seeing that this is a part of their obligation. They have to take ownership and they have to take a step forward and contribute towards conservation in their own little realm. So there are many companies out there who are taking this very seriously and who are, not just signing a check to say this is for CSR, but actively getting involved in putting up, for example, a biodiversity department. For example, inside large jungle areas, where they put up a biodiversity department which can help manage that.
Yeah, one of the things that was shared, I think, in the first half of the panel is the issue of how states are compensated, right? Because in Malaysia we have federal and state. A lot of our taxes are federal, and states are underfunded. But land use and land conversion essentially is a state decision. Now, have you seen success stories? And this obviously, doesn't have to be Malaysia or anywhere here, where companies or people actually pay the state for forests to be conserved, because the opportunity cost is high. The opportunity cost is clear, right? But then what do they benefit, or how can they economically benefit from keeping that forest untouched, basically?
No, I sadly have not seen that, but I believe there would be great opportunity there, because I think there would be a number of companies who would be willing to, let's say, lease the jungle land, let's say for a period of 40 years, where they would be obliged to ensure that this area is protected, it's overseen, managed, and where rangers could be recruited, but also where you have people who are professionals in the aspects of biodiversity who could help run this place. So it's not exposed to logging or removal of wildlife, etc.
Thank you so much. I believe we're now regrouping as a big group, and there may be further questions. I see, hi Chacko, and hi Lara. I see we're having problems with seeing Horng. Horng, are you there?
Hello, Natasha. Hello, Dato Carl. Thank you so much. That was, I've always wondered what exactly RSPO was, and it's...
So now, Chacko, the one thing that all of us must do after this is when you buy your next Kit Kat, look for the logo.
Okay, yes. That'll be, at least now we've seen the logo, we know what to look for.
And for good measure, be vegan like me, don't support animal farming.
Yes. But in Malaysia, it's still agriculture that's the biggest, that uses most land, right? Would that be right?
I mean, the oil palm, if you look at the oil palm, it uses about 15% of the total land bank in Malaysia. 15%.
Okay.
Chacko, I think the what I'm interested in is really the moving forward, and Carl, I really like that, and I can see it already here in Malaysia that a lot of palm oil companies. Let's look at Yayasan Sime Darby, for example, the work that they are doing in terms of connecting up, forests. In Sabah, creating stepping stones in Sabah. And this is what I would love to see here in Peninsular Malaysia, is that, the palm oil industry leading the way in terms of how to reconnect forests that is already disconnected, you know. And I think that would be an amazing achievement to be able to say that, you know, look at certain areas. I mean, I think the Kerteh problem recently with the tigers coming out is because they are on an island, you know, and what do you do with these poor tigers? You know, 5-6 tigers are in this area. So I think for us, what I'm hoping for is that everybody needs to play a role. I can only do so much. I can make films, I can run an NGO, and that's all I can do. But I think other people that can also come in, and I would love for the RSPO companies here in Malaysia to take the lead. We cannot afford to lose the Malayan tiger like we've lost the Sumatran rhino. So I mean, I think it's holding our hand, and together we can do this. That's what I'm hoping for.
Dato Carl, there was some questions about why there's only a 50% demand of the 18% of palm oil which is RSPO certified. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
It has a lot to do with people not actually taking ownership and not living up to their commitments, putting up nice brochures in terms of how they want to save the world and how they are committed to sustainability. But when it comes to actually, you know, walking the talk, they'll quickly disappear out their door like greased lightning. And that's not because you have to pay a very higher price for sustainable palm oil. As we've set out here, I mean, you look at palm oil prices today, in terms of US dollars, it's close to 1,000 or just around $1,000 a ton. Do you think it's too much to pay $10 extra, 10-15 US extra? It's kacang putih. You know, I mean, it's nothing. So, I mean, this is where the great hypocrisy is shown by many. And it's very often shown by, I'm sorry to say, but people in Europe and other parts of the world who are making the loudest noise. Many of these consumers, many of these big companies are refusing to walk the talk properly. And we need them to step up. And that is why the RSPO has formed recently this thing called shared responsibility. And shared responsibility is all about all the members, the 5,000 members in the RSPO. They are obliged to support the production of sustainable palm oil. All this which has got to do with no deforestation, no killing of wildlife, etc., but also where the support is for the uptake of sustainable palm oil. So if I push, you push. If I pull, you pull. And I think that's the way we want to go forward. But right now, there is this level of hypocrisy, which is quite shocking.
Yeah.
And it's just for $10 US per ton. Is that it?
10 to 20 US dollars, and there you are. And you know, even if you buy certificates, it's less than 10 US dollars per ton.
Yeah.
Horng, you've got something to add.
Yeah. Chacko, fundamentally, they will do what consumers want. So consumers have to vote with our purchasing.
Horng, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just want to say that for the RSPO, for Dato, that actually I know very well about RSPO because of the when I was working in Johor, the Kulim plantation is RSPO certified, and they have done excellent work in the plantation area. And not just that, they go one step forward because we are having the Johor Wildlife Conservation Project there. They want to step up. They pay their own people to join with the petrol teams. They actually internalize the conservation education within the company itself. They even have a wildlife defenders as a unit under the Kulim plantation. And also in terms of future going access their plantation to reach the forest, they get their guards to train up with Berhad, with the NGO I was working at that time at the CEO, to actually train up the roadblock guards to make sure that they can identify the species, the wildlife species, or the poacher who is coming into the area to stop at that point. So we are actually stopping the poacher at the buffer zone before they even reach the forest. So that's the great thing under the RSPO, that you actually not just about the sustainability of the palm oil, but also helping the wildlife. But that's the thing, that anti-palm oil campaigner, they are looking at the much broader things. They're not just looking at RSPO company. They're looking at the whole industry. That's the issue that you are facing now. And for us, for the wildlife NGO, I think the thing that this is the opportunity actually for the Rspo or the oil palm industry yourself, that this is the opportunity, because the Malayan tiger is at the moment at the risk of getting extinct. Okay, if we don't do as much as we could in the next 2 to 5 years, the Malayan tiger might get extinct. But of course, big area like Taman Negara you still have. So this is an opportunity for the oil palm company to step up. Now you say that some are willing to do it. Great, that is excellent, because we have not had anyone who willing to do that. And an example that how successful it could be with this kind of incentive is the IED, the carbon offset market. That it has been done already, but the state government do not want to do that because they're seeing it as they giving out the right to the land to all these carbon offset companies. So what we are actually proposing here is that you have a third party foundation that the Malaysian palm oil company, hopefully Rspo or not, are willing to chip in the fund to actually giving to this third party, not lead by the oil palm plantation or company, no, because that will definitely you'll get backslash and it's just another greenwash. So you actually have an independent foundation. There's some semi-government foundation you can go to or set up a new one, so that the money is actually managed and it's been certified in terms of the forests that you are trying to protect, whether there actually logging happening in those forests, and you actually have a third auditing system that you go, these NGO go down to the state and actually make sure there's no deforestation in the state or conversion of the forest to oil palm or any other, because you are paying the money to the state to actually protect the forest. So you want to make sure the forests are actually being protected. So with that money, you actually have the incentive to the state to telling them that, okay, you keep the natural forest, we will pay you to keep the forest. And in this way, the oil palm company now, in the past, by the anti-palm oil campaigner as the destroyer of the rainforest, of the tiger, of the orangutan, you turn yourself around to become the savior of the tiger habitat or the orangutan's habitat, because you are willing to put up every single hectare of palm oil I put in this much money for the state as an income.
Great.
To not block the forest.
Horng, we just need to move on to some of the questions, but I think that's a fantastic solution. And I hope this dialogue can continue after the session between the conservationists and the palm oil industry, and Rspo could lead the way for other companies to come in, even outside. A question from Lucas Appleton. What is stopping larger companies like Sime Darby from having fully Rspo certified palm oil?
Now, Rspo is the largest producer of sustainable palm oil today. And, I don't work for Sime Darby. I want to make that very clear, but I want to make another thing just as clear. They are very committed to sustainability, and they have taken great efforts. They have made several good initiatives in terms of trying to enhance conservation and protection around their landscape. So, hats off to them. They are one of the serious guys or serious women in this play. So, well done.
And I think Lara has Rimau, her NGO, has personally benefited from Yayas and Sime Darby's support. Yes, Lara?
Yes, at the end of the day, I'm very familiar with the work that Yayas and Sime Darby does, and they've put every effort in. They tried tremendously to save the Sumatran rhino in Sabah, the last Sumatran rhino, but it was a little bit too late, which was devastating for all of us. And I think the message there becomes, we are now at the stage with the Malayan tiger. So I think that, my hope is that more of the industry, of the palm oil industry will come and help towards, and not just, the one or two, to do it. This is for me, the last chance of us to work together to make sure that we don't lose the Malayan tiger.
There's a question from Adrian Yo. Why are plantations still opening up new forested land for oil palm in 2021? Natasha, maybe you want to jump in there?
Or maybe Dato Carl knows, because
either of you.
There's a commitment, right, under RSPO, no new
All
forestation.
I can say is I can't speak for the entire industry. I'm, a small person, but I think if you look at that question, it's a relevant question. And we in the RSPO, we will not be opening up new lands because we've signed up to a pledge of no deforestation. So we are simply not allowed to do that, and we don't want to do it. Those days are over, and we have to accept that status quo is just not acceptable anymore. It's not an option anymore. Business as usual is just not an option anymore. So today we have to change, and we have to move forward in a different way, and we have to focus on the existing land bank which you have, farm things in a much more efficient, sustainable way, thereby producing more with less. And I think that is the key thing to do. That is the way forward.
Yeah. Can I raise a question? Because I know that we make, and this is pertaining to this question, I know that we make commitments at the national level, no forestation of primary forests. That doesn't stop you from doing things on secondary forests. So in terms of wildlife, do you differentiate between primary and secondary? And is it okay then, is it sensible as a national policy to say that, okay, we protect primary, but secondary, hey, we will do what we like?
In the RSPO, you're not allowed to develop secondary forest. I mean, the NPP, the new planting policy just does not allow you to do that. So there you are.
And I think, can I step in here? The reality in Peninsular Malaysia, we have hardly any primary forest left. Hardly, less than 10%. I think it might be much, much less than that. So come on, we cannot just say, okay, never mind, we just keep the primary forest. And that's just not enough. It's just not enough.
Here's a question from Ida. How efficient is EIA, I think that's Environmental Impact Assessments in Malaysia, to stop land use change? One consultant cannot make it. Another consultant will only suggest the mitigation plan and get it approved. So how reliable, how effective is that? Who would like to jump in there?
I think that question is for the Department of Environment to answer. We are not in the position to answer.
Okay. But is that one of the problems that, we have environmental impact assessments required, but it somehow gets, so is it an issue that consultants are approving things which they maybe shouldn't?
Yeah, it could be one.
Is the government.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I mean, some of the EIA report has been questionable, but then it's all come back to why the land has to be opened up. I mean, it's go to the same question or the same issues that the state do not have enough money to sustain, so they want the revenue. Yeah.
So Chacko, if I can summarize a little bit.
Oh, sorry, Natasha.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in terms of Adrian Yeo's question, why are plantations still opening up new areas? The reality is, even if you have 5% that do a bad job, unfortunately, it spoils it for everybody. That I think is the sad part. The RSPO might be you guys all doing a great job in making sure you're sustainable, but you need one bad apple and that's it. Oh yeah, So I think the reality is RSPO needs to pressure the government to make sure you don't have these bad apples, because it only takes one,
Yeah. There's a question from Khaira. What sorts of assistance is provided to smallholders in the Malaysian palm oil industry to ensure more sustainable practices? I think there's actually a national drive to have all smallholders MSPO certified. So that's a sort of Malaysian sustainable palm oil standard. So, there were some maybe barriers or cost issues for them to join RSPO or to adopt RSPO. So Malaysia has its own standard, and smallholders are actually being helped to adhere or comply to that standard.
So is that a lower standard to the RSPO?
No, it's just, I suppose it's locally administered, so the barriers in terms of fees and so on to joining it is lower. That was what I was made to understand. And more effort by MPOB to actually help them on the ground.
Okay. I think we're getting on to 9:15 towards the
I want to summarize two big things. If there's two big takeaways, one, we have to make sure that there is the right incentive structure. So as what Horng has been pushing for, states need to be somehow compensated for keeping the land as forests. Because right now, states have no choice, because states earn most of their income from land conversion premiums. That's the reality. So if we don't change how state makes money, nothing will change. And secondly, is we as consumers must vote with our money. If we care about, sustainability, then make purchasing decisions based on that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the big takeaway, that it's the big problem now in terms of loss of habitat is the state needing to log, and how can we resolve that? And we need to have the federal come in and assist that, but working together with the corporate industries, the corporate world, which is including palm oil. Any last words, Dato Carl? Before
I inherently believe that sustainability, sustainable palm oil within the plantation sector is the way forward. I also am a firm believer that many in the industry are being much more committed now towards aspects of conservation and understanding that development must equal positive change. It's not just enough for change, it has to be positive change. Look, none of us want the Malaysian tiger to be extinct, but we can't just point a finger at one industry or at one department. It's got to be a collective effort. We have got to make incremental steps forward. And I think that if there is the right leadership to actually steer this and to provide, a guidance, a shining light or a ray of light in terms of what do we do going forward, if people can see, if companies can see that the money they contribute is going to be spent wisely, is actually going to reach the tigers and help sustain the tiger population, I will bet you my top dollar that you will find a lot of people who will commit to this. And that's the way we have to go. It requires leadership, someone to take the baton and to lead the way in terms of what is to be done to ensure that the conservation, the protection, and the livelihood of the tiger is going to be there for the next 100 years.
Thank you, Dato. I think Lara has been nodding vigorously, and I know something she's really pushing for is a national task force for tigers.
I think at the end of the day, I think first is admitting that we have a serious problem when it comes to biodiversity conservation here in Malaysia. As I said, we've already lost so much. We cannot afford to lose more. So one, admitting that we have an issue. Two is finding the resolution of how are we going to resolve these problems. So I think for tigers, we've always been pushing for a national tiger task force. The reality in places like India and Nepal and in Russia, where tiger numbers have come up or have rebound, is because there is a national tiger task force of sorts, where it's led by the Prime Minister, and where you can sit down at the table to discuss the issues with the Menteri Besars, everybody on board. Saving tigers is not just one person or one organization. Everybody has to come on board and play their part. One person can't do it alone. So I'm hoping that that we have the leadership, and we need to push for that leadership. We need to demand that leadership to happen. So, and I think moving forward, I think we just have got to keep positive and just chug along. Come on, guys, let's go and get this done, because we don't have the time, and we don't, if not, we'll just lose them. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts. And I look forward to working together with everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
Horng, any last words before I hand over to Emma?
Yeah, I think at this stage of the tiger situation in our country, I think it's not just, like I said earlier, the Sun has stepped forward much further than anyone can imagine, and the federal government have put in so much. Like what Dato Kepi mentioned before, it was about 100 million for the next 5 years to trying to save our tigers. Now the RRC have come forward, and we need the industry to come forward. Why we want to pick the palm oil industry is because you guys are so organized already. Just like under the Rspo certification scheme, that you are already organized as a whole, as one unit, that you can come forward easily. And you guys have the leadership to actually move forward. when you talk about the rubber, the Musang King, there's no such thing in all these other industries. That's why I think there's opportunity. That's why I keep on saying there's opportunity for the oil palm industry to come forward to as the savior of the Malayan tiger, rather than have been, to be slammed by the anti-oil palm campaign to be the destroyer or the murderer of the tigers. Because you guys apparently are not. But now it's an opportunity to actually even turn that forward, to actually saying that you are actually putting money to make sure the remaining tiger habitat will not be even taken away from any other agriculture practice, because the state has been compensated to be able to sustain themselves. Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, we hope that from this talk we can actually move forward to actually get things on the ground, to get it done. We don't have much time, but we are not that late yet. We still have time. Yeah.
So we all have to keep putting up the pressure and get, our top leaders to get everybody involved. I think with that, we've really run out of time. So thank you to all panelists for taking time to talk about this issue. And I hope the dialogue will continue once we're over. Over to you, Emma.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a plea for all of us to, as Dr. Carl said, to walk the talk, right? We're all part of the problem. We all have to be part of the solution, be that in the consumer choices that we make, as Natasha pointed out, or, pressurizing our local MPs, or lobbying, or doing things about awareness. So yeah, we all have to be part of this solution, because there is a huge sense of urgency. I think we definitely got that from Lara, how urgent, and from Horng, how urgent this is. And dare I say, it would be embarrassing if Malaysia lost its national animal, right? I mean, the Malayan tiger is everywhere. Can you imagine the Olympics team having to compete in the Olympics after the Malayan tiger had been officially declared extinct? It would just be heartbreaking. It would be tragic. So yeah, we all have to step up. Lara, just remind us, when and how can we see the full version of the film? Just remind us that.
The film will be on National Geographic Channel on the 23rd of September at 10 p.m. I think it's Astro 551, I think. And I'm sure they will be repeating it many, many times after, so I think just keep an eye out. And
you can search for it on Astro and get it on demand once it's aired after the 23rd. You could probably watch it on demand as well.
Yes, I think you'll be able to watch it on demand as well. And I think it will be probably on Disney Plus as well at some point.
Yeah.
And if you don't have Astro, go visit a friend who has. Now that we're opening up, you can wear your mask and watch it with them.
Yeah, I know in our Oxbridge chat, everybody was just really, really moved and impressed with the film. So finally, thank you very much to Liana, Zimi, and Elizabeth for all the backstage support. Thank you to Natasha and Chacko for hosting and moderating. Thank you to the audience for all their questions. Thank you to Dato, Carl, Lara, and Horng for being our guests and informing us all so well this evening. And finally, just Selamat Hari Malaysia for tomorrow, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you very much.